Hello there, welcome to the episode. Today we are talking about self-sabotage because, well, shit, it's a real thing. And it is something that I have a whole bunch of experience with personally, as well as professionally via my clients. By the way, if you hear roosters in the background, it's because my neighbors have a bunch of them. So, cock-a-doodle-doo. All right, we're going to go through 5 of the most common self-sabotaging behaviors or scenarios that tend to come up. And I'm also going to provide you with specific examples of exactly how to work around them and achieve your goals. Towards the end of the episode, I'm also going to dig into the root cause of self-sabotage, or in other words, why we do it to begin with, because a lot of times it seems to be a bit of a head scratcher, right? We think, why did I just totally screw myself over despite my intentions? But first up, we've got fat clothes and skinny clothes. As a lot of folks begin to get leaner and lose weight, they have a resistance around getting rid of old clothing that no longer fits them. Because there's an idea in the back of their heads that goes something like, I might need these if I fail or regain the weight or fall off track. And this is straight up self-sabotage because you are consciously or subconsciously telling yourself that this might not work. And so what I recommend to my clients is that they get rid of all of their clothing that no longer fits them as they progress, because we want to let our subconscious know that we ain't going back there. This is permanent. Also, this is actually going to support and encourage progress quite literally in real time. Because if you only have clothing that fits you now, if you do regress a little bit for whatever reason, your clothes are going to tell you. Versus if you have a bunch of looser fitting stuff that you slip into, if you happen to fall off track, you are not getting that same feedback. There's also a more significant sense of investment because if you toss those old clothes that no longer fit, you're going to be more likely to stay on track, especially if you happen to be incentivized financially. Because if you don't, it's going to then force you to either reel things in or rebuy that clothing. Incentives can be really powerful. So if it's too big today, get rid of it. Give it away, sell it, burn it, doesn't matter. Just don't keep that option on the table because it's sort of like half committing to a relationship. If you're always just keeping your ex in the loop, maybe sending a few texts here and there and maintaining that line of communication, you've essentially only got one foot in the door with your current partner, right? 2 feet, jump in, let's go. Numero dos is food environment. This is without a doubt the biggest source of self-sabotage. Because as I've explained on the pod before, humans are opportunistic eaters. And so it's not a matter of if we are going to eat the cookies on the counter or the ice cream in the freezer, it is a matter of when. We want to take willpower out of the equation whenever possible. Because why rely on something like willpower that requires energy when you can just take it off the table completely? It is foolproof. The folks that appear to have the most quote-unquote willpower use it the least. The research is really clear on this, and it's fairly counterintuitive. We tend to think that the people that are in great shape just have so much willpower, and they actually don't. They simply set themselves up for success by being honest about what they are susceptible to and adjusting accordingly. Now, if you have a family that eats differently than you do, I would recommend implementing some sort of system that works for everyone. So maybe it is having specific areas of the kitchen or pantry that you just don't eat from, or having them keep items around that you personally don't find tempting instead of the ones that you really do. Having said that, if you are buying all sorts of junk food and treats for your little kiddos, I am not telling you how to feed them. That is obviously your call. But I'm just throwing a question out there. Why are they eating that shit? Kids need quality nutrients for their brains and bodies because they are literally laying the foundation for their lives. That is not an overstatement. Also, picky eaters are not born. They are created, meaning kids eat what their parents teach them to eat. I have a whole podcast episode on this titled Nutrition for Children, and it is number 205 if you're interested. Also, a lot of parents will say that they need to keep X, Y, and Z foods around for their family. But in many cases, the truth is that they're keeping those foods around for themselves. I have literally had clients admit this to me. They've gotten rid of things and realized afterwards that they were the only ones in the family that were actually eating them. They had told themselves that they continued to buy said items for the family as a whole, but that turned out not to be true. Sneaky self-sabotage rearing its head yet again. And you can think about keeping these super calorie dense, hyper palatable foods around like tripping hazards. If you keep tripping over your shoes every time you come in and out of your house, maybe, just maybe, put your shoes away. Like, how many times do you have to fall on your face before you acknowledge that these foods are in fact keeping you from what you say that you want? Number 3. I'm sure that you have heard the quote, failing to plan is planning to fail, and it is true. Winging it is not a solid strategy while you are developing new lifestyle habits. You might be in a position to fly by the seat of your pants once you got, say, 2, 3, 4 plus years of consistent healthful nutrition behind you. But if you are just starting out and you're winging it, that is a clear sign of sabotage. And you can think about it like going on a trip to a new destination. You don't want to just book your outbound flight and be like, we'll figure out where we're going to sleep when we get there. That's crazy, right? Now, on the flip side, we don't want to plan so much that if any little thing doesn't work out exactly how we expected it to, that we freak out and lose our shit. There is a balance to be had. And here's how I'd recommend going about planning. First off, figure out where you want to be and by when, and then just work backwards. For example, let's say that you want to lose 30 pounds in 20 weeks, which is an average of 1.5 pounds lost weekly, which for most folks in most situations is totally doable. Now that we know where we want to be and when, we implement the how, or the plan, which would be nutrition, movement, and sleep specific. Now, as we go through the weeks, we can always make tweaks and adjustments, but we've still got that North Star, right? And this can apply in a much smaller context too, and I'll provide you with another travel example. When my clients go on vacation, I ask them 2 simple questions beforehand, and they are, what do you want to weigh on the scale the first morning that you wake up after returning from your trip? And number 2, what would you need to do to come home feeling recharged, but also proud and satisfied with your choices? Once these 2 things are established, all we need to do is work backwards and fill in the gaps. This is a recipe to not only reboot via your vacay and have it serve its purpose, but also have you come home not kicking your own ass and regretful because you just said fuck it as soon as you got to the airport and everything fell off the rails. It's essentially the opposite of hanging yourself out to dry. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So implement a plan. It's actually really interesting. A lot of my clients mention when they first sign up with me that there is a giant weight that is lifted off of their shoulders. And the funny thing is that they haven't even really started yet. But simply knowing that they have a clear-cut plan that is going to work is super freeing. And I am not saying that you have to hire a coach. What I am saying is that once you set up some landlines and commit, you actually feel more free to play within them. Also, knowing that you have a clear-cut action plan provides you with relief because instead of just sitting in a situation that you don't like and doing nothing about it, you now know that you have a progression plan in place to change your situation. Action ends suffering. Number 4 is doing everything, except the most important thing. So some folks will exercise a whole bunch, they'll sleep well, they'll reduce their alcohol intake, they'll hit their step counts, but then they will neglect their nutrition. And when it comes to fat loss, nutrition is king. And so if there was one thing to focus on in terms of results, it would be your diet. And so doing everything except the most important thing is just another way of self-sabotaging your progress. You cannot outtrain, outwalk, outsleep, or outsmart a poor diet. It is the difference maker between losing fat and not. This is why nutrition is the foundation of my work. My clients want to lose fat. Being that that is the case, nutrition is the most relevant tool for the job. Simple as that. So, ignoring or neglecting the most important input for a given result is just another way to sabotage your results. All right, let's cover number 5 before we address the root cause of all of this stuff. Number 5 is weekends. This is just classic, right? You crush it for the most part, Monday morning through Friday afternoon, and then the wheels just fall off, and your weekends look completely different to your weekdays in terms of your routine and choices. This is such a great way to self-sabotage and simultaneously feel super frustrated and discouraged, because the truth is that you're putting in the work Monday through Friday, but your weekends are so far off track that they completely erase any and all of the progress that you had made during the week, and you get nowhere fast. It's like driving in circles because it feels like you've covered a fair bit of distance, which technically you have, but you're ending up in the exact same place every Monday. Diet starts on Monday, right? I did this for years because I was obsessed with figuring out a way to have my cake and eat it too. And I was just banging my head against the wall because the truth is, that's not possible. Something had to give if I wanted a different result. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And so it's crucially important to look at your week as a whole, i.e., all 7 days, instead of just Monday to Friday. If your goal is to save up for a house, it doesn't matter if you save $1,000 Monday through Friday. If you overspend by $1,000 from Friday evening to Sunday, you're not saving a penny. Okay, so those are the most common self-sabotaging behaviors that pop up around achieving fat loss results. But what is underneath these situations? Like, what is driving the boat? The key insight or takeaway from this episode is that if you say that you want something and you're constantly shooting yourself in the foot, which as a result is keeping you from that thing that you say that you want, there is some part of you, conscious or subconscious, that does not feel as though you deserve it. This is cutting to the absolute core of the issue. We have what we feel we deserve, whether it be fitness level, body composition, career, compensation, relationships. Our outer world is simply a reflection of our inner world. We see examples of this all the time, right? Folks get everything that they say that they want, and then they do something to completely mess it up. Romantic relationships are a clear-cut example. Things are going amazing. They couldn't possibly be better for someone. And then they do something that just completely ruins it. whether it's being unfaithful in a monogamous relationship or saying things that they just can't unsay, whatever it may be. Personally, I have self-sabotaged so many times with food, alcohol, drugs, you name it. And the food, alcohol, and drugs in these situations were just tools that I used to sabotage. They were a symptom of an underlying issue, which was self-worth. I did not feel deserving. Now, the question on the back end of that typically is, well, how do you change that? How do I build self-esteem? There is definitely a degree of fake it until you make it, but also, in my eyes, it is a do the thing anyway dealio. For example, let's say that you're crushing your fat loss goals. You're feeling better, mood is up, you're more energetic, things are just clicking. And then you have the urge to sabotage. Don't. Now, I realize how ridiculous that sounds, but being courageous enough to stay on track will build your self-worth and self-esteem, because what you will have to feel, process, and work through in order to stay on track in those situations when you have that urge to self-sabotage is the solution. That quite literally is how you build self-esteem. It is to do that difficult thing when you have the urge not to do it. This is personal growth in action. So when I had the urge to say, fuck it, and just go out and crush 10 beers or hit the grocery store and eat all the treats, I held myself accountable and stayed on track despite said urges. And working through the feelings that come up as soon as I make that choice not to sabotage are exactly how to build self-esteem and self-worth. It is to take advantage of these opportunities when they present themselves. And you're gonna miss, just like I have. You're gonna mess it up, just like I have. But the good news is that you only fail if you quit. If you're interested in applying for one-on-one nutritional coaching and or workout design with me, you can click the link in the description below or head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. On Instagram, I'm at N1Fitness. On TikTok, at the N1Fitness. And on YouTube, I am at Marcus Sadu. Feel free to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform if you'd like to. And be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope that you found this episode useful, and I will catch you on the next one. See ya.